Does everybody see my screen? I think we're good. Perfect. All right. So first of all, Tanner, I wanted to thank you for including us on this very awesome mastermind event. To everyone listening in, welcome to Blast Off 2023. This is going to be great. So first of all, my name's Austin Hauser. If you have not heard my voice before, I'm a husband, father of two, and chief brainiac over at Base Coat Marketing, which is just a fun title for CEO. So if you've not heard of Base Coat Marketing, we are an agency exclusive to painting companies. We're based out of Wilmington, North Carolina. We have 25 team members today dedicated to this industry and only this industry. Now, before you tune out with what, it's important to understand that this whole talk is not going to be about marketing. In fact, what I'd like to do is just make a quick pivot here. And I'd first like to talk about time, how you can prioritize it, why it is your most precious commodity, and why you should guard it with your life. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a quick story about why I feel like I'm qualified to talk about this subject and how it relates to marketing your painting company. So I'd like to rewind to December 22nd of 2021. This is just before Christmas, about a year and a half ago. This is a picture of me and my son, Brody. He was 6 years old at the time, and he wanted to go see the new Spider-Man movie. So off we went, right? At the time, I was working 12 to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. For those who have worked a 100-hour work week before, you know how painful this can be. And instead of enjoying this movie with my son, who got dressed up to go, see this movie with his favorite superhero costume, I was on my phone, sending messages and responding to emails. I was not present, and I thought I had my priorities in order. Fast forward a few months, March 28th of last year. This is the day of my 34th birthday, the day that flipped my whole world upside down. It was the day that my wife told me I was diagnosed with a 1.5 centimeter brain tumor. Now, my wife works in radiation oncology, and while this tumor was not cancerous, fortunately, she knew where it was located, next to my brainstem, and that surgery was likely my only logical course of action here. How priorities change. So, like anyone else staring into the abyss, I started researching and talking to any specialist that would answer my call. And eventually I ended up on two doctors out of San Diego as the team that I would choose to undergo this 6-hour, obviously very high-risk procedure. Dr. Friedman and Dr. Schwartz. I asked for their first availability, and surgery was scheduled for 2 months later on May 24th. It's 1 year ago last month. Now, leading up to this surgery, I spent all of my available time preparing my body and mind for what was about to become its most traumatic experience since my birth. So I fly across the country, undergo this procedure, and I come out on the other side doing okay with all things considered. I had double vision. I couldn't walk. I felt like I got hit in the head with a baseball bat on the worst hangover of my entire life, but I was alive and I was gifted with more time. Then a few days before we were set to fly home, I was hit with meningitis. And for those who don't know what meningitis is, it is the swelling of the dura around your brain. Your head feels like it's trapped in a vice grip, and no pain medication, including morphine, can help you. This was brain aneurysm territory, guys. This is about as bad as it can get. So after a total of 15 days in and out of the hospital in San Diego, I flew home to begin what was a very long 6-month recovery process. And when I finally had time to reflect on what I had been through, I decided I was only going to invest my time and myself into the things that made an impact. Yes, my priorities changed drastically. And this experience profoundly changed the way that I look at and run my business. So today we are going to talk about a few concepts, such as the Pareto principle, and how they apply to your painting company. So I told you this story for a reason, and I've titled this talk, The Pareto Marketing Principle, since yes, we are a marketing company, and this is one of our core values, be the 20%. For those who have not heard of the Pareto principle, It's also known as the 80-20 rule or the law of the vital few. It indicates that most of your results will come from a small percentage of your effort. Okay, so if we break this down, out of all the things that you can be doing throughout an 8-hour workday, roughly only 2 of those hours are actually going to have an impact. Okay, and listen, there are some tasks and industries that claim that this number is closer to like 90-10 or 95-5. But the key takeaway here is that we only want to focus on the tasks that actually generate results. Your time is valuable. Now, as much as I would love to keep this entire talk about mindset, if you're listening to this podcast, it's probably because you're interested in generating more wealth from your painting company. So we're going to stay on topic here. So let's talk about marketing. What works, what doesn't work, and where you should be investing your time. And it's important to understand, so I'm going to be talking about time quite a bit throughout this entire presentation. Even if you're paying another agency for these services, when I'm talking about time, I'm also talking about your monetary investment. Why? Because where do you get the cash to pay for marketing? You get that from the time you invest into your company. Okay, so here it is, Digital Marketing 101, or what I'm calling marketing in time. Okay, digital marketing. There's 2 main strategies that everybody needs to be aware of, and that is short-term and long-term. All right, either one of these strategies alone will not produce consistent results, and you will be questioning why you're investing in marketing at all. Okay, so for short-term, these will include things like Google ads, Facebook ads. Okay, and if we keep costs fixed, so fixed costs throughout an entire 12-month calendar year, those results will fluctuate with the seasonality of this industry. And you will continue renting your lead flow from another company like Facebook or Google. So for long-term results, we look to bring in things like website development and SEO, search engine optimization, right? This is a long-term business investment. We treat it as a business asset. So predictable results for the long term are looking like 6 to 12 months in most markets. Markets like LA or Manhattan can even be 18 to 24 months, right? It's crazy. It takes a while. And if you think all you need is a website to rank on Google today, even in a lightly competitive market, you're dead wrong. Okay, so if you want more detail on this particular long-term strategy, please go back and listen to our Liftoff 2023 event from, I think it was January of this year. I break this down in detail, and it gives you a ton of actionable tips here. So what we found is layering these strategies generates the best short-term ROI while providing you the long-term business investment, which has that compounding interest effect. It provides that investment the time it needs to kick in. Okay, so if implemented correctly, these 2 strategies together will provide you the short-term wins to sustain the long-term investment. Okay, but so besides ads and SEO, we've all heard about these strategies before. What about all of the other marketing things we could be doing, right? So we want to avoid the shiny objects, but what are they? By Pareto's principle, we want to avoid the tasks that take up 80% of your time, but on average only produce 20% of those results. Okay, so these are going to include things like organic social posting, email marketing, Bing, TikTok. These are all strategies that, yes, they can generate results, but the time and money you invest can generate better results elsewhere. Okay, so regarding the topic of organic social posts, these are any posts that you add to your Facebook or Instagram page that are not advertised. I just want to hammer down on this particular point. I was just in Tampa last week. We were shadowing another agency, very large, successful agency in another niche. And we asked them why they do organic social posts for their clients. The response was because our clients think they need it. And if we don't, someone else will. Okay. Personally, I would rather educate you than take your money. This strategy has about a 5% reach for those who like and follow you. So unless you've already built up a following and plan on posting every single day, you are unlikely to see a return on that time. Okay, organic social posts is an all or nothing strategy. So if you're paying someone to post, say, a picture of your upcoming 4th of July promo, you are burning cash. The best social accounts we amplify are those that have a few project photos posted each month. A project manager on your team can do this in 5 minutes. You don't need to pay somebody. Cool. So to recap, you own a painting business, you have a marketing budget. Where do you start? Let's get into the weeds. So in general, marketing is pretty straightforward. For instance, if you were to pay a company like Base Coat Marketing with the expectation, we're going to put more money back in your pocket each month, right? It's money in, no money out. Relatively easy. Where it gets challenging, particularly in the painting industry, is what we call the 3 lead levers: volume, quality, and cost. Generally, you cannot have all 3. You can generate a high volume of leads at a low cost, but the quality may suffer. Or you can produce high quality leads at a high volume, but it's going to cost you. And that math may not make sense. It's like a game of whack-a-mole, right? It's what sets the good marketers apart from the great. So out of all of the marketing strategies that you can invest your time into today, how do we know which ones are going to produce the best results? Where is that 20%? Welcome to the ICE method. So let's say that you have a list of tasks you'd like to complete and you're not sure where to start. This is where you start. Okay, now I really hope this is going to blow everyone's mind. I know it did whenever I first heard about it. And if you've not heard of ICE, it's an acronym that's going to help you prioritize anything in your life. It works particularly well for making business decisions though. So ICE stands for impact, confidence, and effort. Each point is a 1 to 10 scoring system, 0 to 10 in this case, totaling 30 points. So let's break it down. Impact. How much impact could this task have on your business? 0 to 10. Confidence. How confident are you that this is going to have an impact? 0 to 10. And effort. How much time, energy, or money is going to be required to complete this task? 0 out of 10. Add it up. That is your ICE score. Okay, you should order the tasks on your list by this score. That is your order of priority. So if we use the ICE method for all possible digital marketing strategies, you get a breakdown like this. Now, obviously, this is not the complete list. That list is extremely long, but I wanted to cherry pick the top results and throw a few other examples in here as well. So the goal here is to only invest your time into the tasks that have an ICE score of at least 50%, right? So 50-50 chance is that's about your best odds that you're going to get there. Anything less than that, you're just gambling. Okay, so that's at the very least a 15 out of 30. So let's start with the highest ICE score. It's going to be your Google business profile. I'm sure everybody listening in has heard of this. It's very important. So impact 9. Think of those 3 lead levers. The higher the impact, the easier it is to keep those moles in the ground. Okay, so your business profile is a free lead source with an extremely high close ratio. On average, our clients are about 60% close ratio across the board. We are 100% confident that this profile will generate results for your painting company. So our confidence level is 10. Effort 7. This profile will have an impact, but it does require things such as reviews and project photos. So it requires your time. So we gave this an ICE score of 26. So next up on this list here is Google LSAs. So local services ads, getting Google guaranteed. If you haven't heard of this, we're going to talk more about it here in a minute. So impact is 8. These are not available in all areas, and lead flow is determined by your local search volume. But it's an extremely high quality lead source. Very important. Think of this as a way to extend the reach of your business profile. You cannot advertise just your business profile on Google Ads anymore. This is what LSAs are for. So our confidence is 9. We are very confident that this channel will generate results for your painting company. We manage these ads across nearly every state in the United States. They work. Okay. Effort 7. Since this is tied to your business profile, reviews and things like answering your phone are ranking factors. So it does require your time, but it's nothing that should make you sweat. These are all things that you should have budgeted for already. So we have an ICE score of 24 here. Next up is website and search engine optimization. Impact 10. Of anything that you can invest your time into today from a digital marketing standpoint, this is it. This is your business asset. Think of this as like your retirement fund, okay? it appreciates with time. So our confidence here is 10. Given enough time, this works every time. But from an effort standpoint, which we've given it a 3, it requires a ton of time, money, energy, and experience to execute this properly. But the investment is almost always worth your time. So we've given this an ICE score of 23. Paid social. So Facebook and Instagram ads. Most everybody listening in has probably tried this at some point or are using this today. Impact is 7. This channel can produce quick wins at a low price point, but lead quality is directly measured by your audience data, which can take time to build up. Okay, so until you can market to what's called a lookalike audience on this channel, you're going to see inconsistent results. So this is not something you just put your credit card in, throw up some ads and expect results. There is a strategy there. Okay, so our confidence level in this is 8. These ads always will get your phone ringing, but ROI is dictated by a number of factors, some of which are going to be outside of your control. Things such as the local target audience size in your market. Smaller the pool you're fishing from, the more expensive those leads are going to cost. So when somebody quotes you a price per lead, take that with a grain of salt. That may not be what's going to be consistent in your area for the same exact ad and ad copy. Effort, again, we have a 5 here, and this isn't about lead flow. This is about lead quality and ROI. Think back to those 3 lead levers. Any advertising channel can get you leads, but it takes effort to get and generate a high quality lead at a price that mathematically makes sense for your painting company. So we've given this an ICE score of 20. Paid search. So these are Google ads. This is about where we draw the line on services that we find make an impact online. And this may surprise a lot of you listening in. Like Google ads used to be where all the bread and butter was, right? And it technically is. So impact is 9 here, simply due to buyer intent. So Google still has the highest quality lead source online today, but it is now a very different landscape than it was just last year. So confidence level is 3. So just to give you a little insight here, last year, Google applied a few algorithm updates on the paid search side and is now favoring those with larger budgets. So think to companies like Angie and Home Advisor and CraftJack, Thumbtack, all of them. These companies are willing to spend $300 to $500 per lead because they make their margins back by reselling that same lead to your competitors. Typically, that math is not going to make sense for the average painting company. Okay, so success on this channel is 100% dictated by the competition in your local market. If Angie finds enough competition in your area that are willing to buy in, they will outbid you every time. So if you are generating results on this channel, know that it is not because it's not because you're doing anything different. It's because you have a local market gap, and that gap can be filled at any time by a larger budget. Okay, Google is pushing all of the local service companies, including painting companies, to LSAs. That is the reason they made those paid search algorithm updates last year. So effort is a 3. Compared to social media ads, this has a much longer marketing funnel. Okay, you have your ad copy, a landing page, confirmation page, conversion pixels. This is a complex advertising channel that requires experience to ensure that your time that you invest will generate a return on investment. It's very different. So ICE score of 15. Again, we don't want to invest in anything less than a 15. So for example, I wanted to include something that was less than that just so you guys can have some context. So finally, I have organic social posts on here. Again, these are any posts that you make on your social profile that are not paid ads. And I really hope Eric Foz touches on this point tomorrow morning. Everybody listening in, remember, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., same time, we have Eric Foz kicking the day off here. He's going to talk all about social ads. But please, for the love of God, do not boost posts on social media. If you're boosting posts, go donate that money to the homeless instead. It's going to have more impact there. So from an impact standpoint, this channel has a 5% reach for those who like and follow your profile. So just to break that math down, if 1,000 people like your painting business Facebook page and you do a post organically, roughly 50 of them are going to see that in their newsfeed. Okay. So, and keep in mind, you guys cannot deposit a like or an impression in the bank account. You want your phone to be ringing. So value that time. And why is this the case? It's because social media is a pay to play platform. They want your money. You're there to monetize their platform. So our confidence level here is a 2. Social media is defined by age, and every market is different. So what works well from an organic strategy in one city may not work at all in another. And effort is a 4. So again, this is an all or nothing strategy. Plan on spending at least an hour every day to produce content in perpetuity. So if you're not spending money, they expect you to produce content. And if you stop producing content, the leads will dry up immediately. Okay, so this is an ICE score of 11. So these are all marketing strategies that are likely to produce the best results for your painting company today. Hope you're taking notes. Okay, now, how do we implement these? Like, how do we attack that 20%? Now, I can, and I already have spent hours going an inch wide and a mile deep into every single one of these strategies. So for the sake of this talk and your time, we've compiled these resources and every strategy on our, into a learning center on our website at basecoatmarketing.com/learn. But I'd like to summarize just the top 3 strategies that we talked about on the previous slide, as they are that important. So for your business profile, in particular, you should aim to capture at least 1 new review per a week. Recency is just important as quantity. So when you're looking at how well that's going to rank online, you have to look at your top 3 competitors, but then you also need to make sure that you're continually adding to that every single week, I'm sorry. Plan on adding new project images to that profile at least once a month. So other than proximity, which you cannot control, that's how close somebody is to searching for your business, these 2 factors play the biggest role in how well that profile is going to rank. So if you want more information that goes into detail on how to go about setting this up, optimizing it, all of the different services that we recommend adding to that profile, go to basecoatmarketing.com/GBP, stands for Google Business Profile, basecoatmarketing.com/GBP. That has a complete SOP breakdown there. Second, set up and manage your Google local services ads. So again, these are not available in all areas. I would recommend going and getting them set up anyways. The age of your LSA account is a ranking factor. So if you've had your account active more than your next competitor, that actually does boost that profile up in results. And we have an entire article on how to go about setting these up and how we do it for our clients, the ranking factors involved, the whole 9 yards. You can find that at basecoatmarketing.com/LSA, stands for local services ads. And finally, if you don't already have a website today, please, at the very least, go buy a domain name. So Google uses domain age as a ranking factor. So no matter how much effort we put into a new website, let's say you brought us a new domain name today, we cannot get that on page 1 of Google for roughly 3 to 6 months. There's nothing we can do. It puts you into a gate and we cannot get past that. So go buy a domain from a registrar, like GoDaddy, Google, you can buy them on there as well. It'll cost you maybe $20 a year, and get that clock started. And if you have not already created a website, please do not pay someone from Fiverr or use ChatGPT to create content. Google is not ranking AI content no matter what anybody else says, okay? We spend so much time digging painting companies out of holes because they decided to pay for inexpensive SEO services. When it comes to your website and optimizing it for search engines, it is 100% a you get what you pay for type of strategy. Okay, so if you pay a little bit of money, you can expect to dig yourself into a hole. The biggest problem with SEO is it is not a net neutral service. So if you do something wrong, you can actually dig yourself into a hole and it can impact your website negatively. I would rather you come to us with a 1-page landing page than a bloated website that takes our time to fix. And for the bonus priority, also known as a shameless plug, if you own a painting business and are generating at least $500K in annual revenue, as we do not want you to stretch to afford our services, please reach out to Base Coat Marketing today. We can help. Right now, we are still offering our promo, which is free Google local services ads with any SEO program. It's the setup and management. This offer will expire as soon as Google begins offering LSAs nationwide, which should happen at any day at this point. It was supposed to happen Q2 of this year. We're almost in the Q3. But I can guarantee this promo for anybody who is coming from this blast off event through the end of July 2023 to schedule a call with our team. please go to basecoatmarketing.com/blastoff. And finally, if you take away anything from this event, let it be this. This is what my perfect ICE score looks like today. Okay, so prioritize your time, guys. You don't get it back. And with that, I'm free for questions.
All right, man, that was awesome. And I think, guys, we're talking about, managing priorities, managing time. Here's someone that owns a marketing company telling you to manage your money, because I know there's a lot of questions out there about where to spend money, what to do. So, I mean, honestly, guys, use this opportunity to ask Austin whatever questions you have. If you can use the Q&A option, that's somewhere over here to allow us to see those questions. I'll try to go through the chat, and I'm going to read the questions so Austin can just give you the answer, guys. So if you want to drop your questions, I got one question here. Does your domain age also affect how high you rank on local services ads?
No. So we like to look at your website and your domain and tying that into, let's say, your business profile or your LSAs as a ball on the end of a string. So if you throw up that string with the two balls, one will pull down the other, one will pull up the other. So with that said, if your profile is ranking well, it can definitely have a positive impact on your website. If your website's ranking well, it can do the opposite of that as well. They are not tied together outside of that. Domain age is strictly a spam fighting mechanism Google uses to fight somebody from being able to get on page 1 of Google overnight. Once you get past that sandbox, about 3 to 6 months, it has no impact.
Beautiful. What is a typical time frame to really see some results from SEO? I know to be patient, but I'm curious to what you have seen. And this is a good question. I think when you hear people pitch SEO services, it's like the worst experience because you don't get anything. It's just, and you don't even know what's going on. You're just hoping that you're ranking. I'm going to piggyback on this question and say, how can we possibly compete with these companies like Angie, Thumbtack, Yelp that are spending millions of dollars on being at the first page of Google? I'm going to also put another piggyback. This is a big piggy. Do you feel as though that SEO in terms of the organic rankings are as valuable as they used to be 10 years ago?
All right. So let me see if I can tackle this piggy here. So first one, as far as timing goes, that varies by market. So as I mentioned earlier in the talk, if you are in a market, let's say, I don't know, backwoods country, Louisiana, we can get you on page 1 of Google in your local market within a couple months. All right. Like 3-4 months. If you're in a more competitive market, maybe like Tampa, we're looking at 6 to 12 months. We go to a market like LA, Manhattan, where we have millions of people. Your competitor list is going to be very long. It's going to be 12 to 24 months easy. Some SEO companies even say 3 years. So, and again, you have to look at it. We picture SEO like a racetrack. Okay. So if, let's say that you have had a guy out there who's lapping you, and year after year, he's been in business for 5 years. He's just lapping and lapping. It's going to take you a while to get caught up. And, you want to just make sure that you're investing in an agency that is not just doing the status quo, but is going above and beyond to make sure your car is going faster than your competitor. Otherwise, you're just going to stay in that plateaued state over time. As far as outranking competitors like Angie, Home Advisor, yeah, they invest in their organic strategy lightly. I would say we see more competition on like the Sorta Pro 5-star side, any of the large franchises. But every local painting company will have a competitive advantage. And that is the fact that you are local and they are not. So even if you have, let's say, a local Sorta Pro branch, they have what's called domain authority behind them. Their website's obviously very large. They have a lot of authority behind that. And Google does use that as a ranking factor. But what you have as a competitive advantage is you can build an entire website around your local market and they can't. So we typically don't have an issue outranking national franchises or competitors like Angie organically just because of that one factor. And Tanner, I apologize. What was your last question?
10 years ago, SEO was pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. So
now they're adding new widgets at the top. They keep stacking it. If you notice now,
yeah,
page 2 has all the page 1 rankings almost.
Great question. So it's definitely not as important as it was before. things like your business profile definitely outweigh that. And if you've noticed during our ICE score ranking, that follows a very similar ranking strategy as the way that search result is laid out. So your business profile is always going to show up ahead of your website. What's important to understand, though, is your website still holds a lot of weight. So as time moves on, that's probably going to become a less and less of a direct ranking factor. So it's going to be less about click-through rate on your website and more about just the overall authority that website is building for your online presence. As Google continues to fight this AI content issue, and they're coming up with new ways to define what authority is, a lot of that's going to go into two different things. And that's reputation, which is why we tell all of our clients to push reviews online. That's Google's way of fighting AI and any sort of fake spam content out there. And authorship. So writing content that you as the business owner would write. If we're out there just producing content on ChatGPT, Google doesn't want that because there's not an author tied behind it. So those two things are going to become more and more important as time goes on. We're actually already seeing Google develop different widgets within their search results that are built around services by reputation. So you can actually shop for a painting service by the number of reviews you have on your profile. That is something they're still testing. We already have a video about it that we posted a few weeks ago in our Facebook group. It's coming.
What are your thoughts on Google Guarantee? And then some people are saying, I don't think painters are available for that yet. Why is it only handyman? It's a good question.
Yeah. So Google, that particular advertising channel, it's very much about buy-in. So as they start to see more and more people buy in under the interior or painting interior and painting out, I think it's painting indoors, painting outdoors. You can tell
right.
It was a marketer who developed that category structure, but it's set under the handyman primary category. And again, if you guys go to basecoatmarketing.com/GBP, we talk through, LSA, we talk through our strategy on how to go about getting those set up and managed. Over time, as more painters buy into that and use those two subcategories, we would expect a primary category to open up. In the meantime, and this is all detailed on that page, those that have the word painting in their business name generally see the best results. And that's because you're listing yourself under the handyman primary category, and it'll typically deter somebody who needs their garbage disposal.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really great question. Do you rank lower for not listing your address? Office address is my personal address. Thanks, Tim, for the question.
This is such a good question. Yes. And it is a known algorithm issue within Google search results. So technically, if you look at setting up your business profile online, they want you to list yourself as a service-based business with no address. The problem is you will not show up in the search results in the map pack for that. Everybody that has an address listed there will. That's because Google's algorithm is still favoring proximity, and it hasn't figured out a way to leverage the fact that you have a service area and you're not just being proximity around a radius, which is your address. So we always recommend adding an address. Yes, it technically goes against Google's terms as to what they expect you to list there. But if you can go through that validation process, it's the payoff is huge. Now, I should mention, I know you went through the same thing, Tanner. Adding that address can suspend and flag your account.
Miserable.
There's a process to get that back.
But let me tell you this, guys. Austin was in charge. So I changed my address for my business. My business was down for, I don't know, like 3 days. I reached out to Austin's team, and just the fact that like I didn't have to figure it out, he did it, and they had a solution in place. Again, invaluable. But that was a tough 3 days because you just think of all the money that's just not coming your way because Google literally hides your business. So.
Yeah. And do not spam that platform. Let's say you have, you see some competitors out there will get like 4 or 5 business profiles in one area just to blanket that market. They'll eventually get flagged. And what will happen is Google will pull down every one of those profiles, including their primary address. And you lose that review count, that online reputation that you built over time. You have to start from scratch. And sometimes they won't let you back on under the same business name. So treat that as a resource. Don't spam it. If you are going to list your address, make sure you have business documentation behind it. We request 2 forms of documentation. One that is a non-recurring document. So think about like your articles of incorporation. You want your business name and the address listed there. And then one that's recurring. So this is generally the easier one. Think about like your cell phone bill or something. Just simply make sure that the business name and address is listed there. You upload that and you can technically get that reinstated at any time.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, got a couple more questions here. Austin, how do you go about listing two different address locations properly? So I've two business locations now, and I've had trouble setting up both locations to show up properly.
All right, so this is probably a longer, like that's probably more of a discussion. We have what are called micro franchises where they have maybe two locations within a, let's say a 3-hour area. We also have regional franchises, which might be in different states. So depending on the proximity between those two will determine how difficult it is to get those set up. Here's the big caveat that everybody has to understand. Google's an algorithm, and on the business profile side in particular, that is a free service. So Google puts very little support behind that. And what'll happen is if you email Google and say, hey, I have the documentation, get this address up and going on this profile, they're going to bounce back a canned email almost every single time. We had a client go through this recently. In fact, I think it took about 2 or 3 weeks to get it back up and going because we had all the documentation we needed, but we had to get through that filter of saying, hey, there actually is an issue here that you need to look at. Stop sending us those canned responses. Eventually you get through to somebody that actually reads that email, but it can take time.
Do you work with startups who do drywall repair or interior painting, not quite at 500K revenue just yet?
We do not. We like to stay in our lane. So we work with companies that need to be at least doing 80% or more in painting as far as their revenue goes. Also, the other thing is we do not typically work with startups. The reason is we're a marketing agency and I'm not going to take your money unless I'm confident I can put more money back in your pocket each month. Startups are tricky. We're starting from ground zero. So if you think about that race car track analogy, we're starting in the pit stop still. We have no laps to really start with. It's much easier for us to scale fast a painting company that's been around for at least a year.
Guys, let's get a couple more questions going for Austin. I'm reading through these. We talked about Google Guarantee. Let's talk real quick. Somebody asked, how important is a blog on a website? I mean, I think you might have touched on that, but maybe we can focus on that. Is a blog important?
So I would go back and listen to that Liftoff 2023 podcast from last year. I think it's on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken. So just YouTube, Liftoff 2023, Austin. So I think I'm on there. And I go into detail about our content strategy. So a blog is going to make up the vast majority of content on your website. We have what's called a content pyramid. So your homepage is at the top, followed by service pages, then location pages, and then your blog at the bottom. And I might have gotten the service and location mixed up there. I think location's above service. But they fall in order of importance. Now, your blogs are not going to be as important. They're not going to drive as much traffic to your website. But what it does is it casts a wider net. So you can tackle a lot of those longer tail terms. So for instance, you may not be interested in painting a garage door, right? We're all after the full house exterior repaints. But in order to get your foot in the door, in order to show up for things like exterior painting, you need the right content that goes an inch wide and a mile deep on some of those topics. So the blog should make up the vast majority of your content, maybe not right up front, but over the course of a year or two for sure.
Beautiful. All right. Well, I appreciated everyone for the questions. Austin, any final thoughts?
No, again, guys, I just really wanted to make sure that everybody understands that marketing in particular is a very ambiguous service. So you can pay for things that you feel like might be generating results and they're not. Make sure you're finding the things that you can value the most, that are going to generate the most value from your time, and prioritize that.
Awesome. Awesome, man. Thank you so much. I know Austin's going to stick around for the Q&A toward the end of our sessions today. And brother, I appreciate you, all that you do for the industry. If you guys want to check out what Austin's got going on, go to basecoatmarketing.com. Really apply to work with him. I think in the same way as contractors, we vet who we work with. It's smart business for Austin to do that, just to make sure that you're a mutual fit. So take what he said lightly about, having a barrier of entry, but just understand that that's for everyone's best interest.
Right. Thanks, Tanner.
You're welcome.